Hi, everyone. I'm going to do Journal 78 today. But before I do, if you want to just like rush out and buy my book, The Crown and the Caged God, you have my blessing, like my tenderest blessing. And it's available everywhere the internet reaches. Like go to Barnes and Nobles, whatever it is, and like the food, so or any section like baking books or like thrillers or and find your like baking thrillers and find your shelf. And then look and then pull out your phone and order it on Amazon, right? The Crown and the Cage God. Or like you can be at home on your own toilet. You can be in the bathroom or doing some sort of like hygiene thing or something like that, and pull out your phone and or your computer or something if that's in there with you, and order The Crown and the Cage God from Amazon. So in a sense, it's available everywhere. But today, I'm just going to read Journal 78. It's a sequel to 74. 74 was titled Insiders, Outsiders, and the Rolling Invasion, as in J.K. Rowling. And then in it, when I read that one, I said, like, I'm going to write a sequel. I have all these thoughts. I have these ideas. I even have a name. Insiders, Outsiders, and Portcullis Guards. And then I waited a while, but I eventually wrote it, right? So that's what I'm going to read today is that one. I wrote the sequel. And it's about being honest with ourselves, and then honest with other. In the journal, I talk about a birthday party. I don't name anybody. It's something I went to when I was a little kid. And like the birthday boy, we remained friends for quite a while. Actually, that same year that birthday party happened, in a different one of these journals, I think it was one I did with my brother, talked about video games. I also talked about Halloween, and I told a story about how I got the cops called on me on Halloween, and he was with the birthday boy was with me. That was the same year as the birthday party I talk about here. Um, but we stayed friends for quite a while. I've always really liked him, still do, but we lost touch a long time. I haven't talked to him in a year. And elementary school friends tend to do that. They tend to part ways. It just happened. Other than Aaron Lum, who I've been dear friends with since elementary school. But it's just part ways with everybody. But this isn't really about him or anyone else in particular. This is about kids and a weakness that's just inherent to all like a defining feature of adolescence, um, more than like small stature, much more than small stature is dishonesty. They're dishonest with themselves, right? Because they don't know themselves well enough to be true. They're dishonest with their parents because they're like, they don't want to get in trouble. And they're like mischievous at that. And they're more than anything, they're dishonest with their peers because they're terrified that uncoolness will be exposed. And then they grow up, and like some of them grow out, some of them just merely grow up, but some of them grow up and grow out of this behavior. But I guess like a defining feature of a lot of adults, I'm sure you've noticed, is dishonesty too. And so I'm just going to read, that's what this one's about. Let's get to it. Journal 78, Saturday, June 15, 2024, Insiders, Outsiders, and Portcullis Guards. Hi, everyone. I think people like to be perceived as outsiders, but many of us are outsiding ourselves. The doors are unlocked, we're welcome inside, and yet we loiter in exile, pretending to be lepers. I had this epiphany when I was in the 6th grade, and I haven't changed my mind. That year, I went to a birthday party at Skate Palace, a defunct roller skating rink in Salem, Oregon, which was once populated by cool 6th graders. Halfway through the party, we took off our skates and watched the birthday boy open his pile of presents. Plenty of CDs, maybe a Quicksilver shirt or a Swatch or some snowboarding accessories. After each, he thanked the classmate who gave it to him, or classmates who went in together on a more expensive gift. And then he unwrapped a Batman toy. I thought it was a more giftly present than wardrobe additions by Stussy or Billabong, but in the place of a thank you, he tossed it in the trash pile and said, I don't play with toys. I remember feeling sorry for everyone in that moment. The most obvious sorrow was assigned to the person who gave him that gift, as he was stricken with social leprosy for the rest of the party. But a second wave of sympathy was felt for the rest of the gift givers, whose moments ago glee was suddenly interred in an awkward awe. Lastly, and mostly, I felt bad for the birthday boy who clearly suffered from a fear of appearing childish, even though he was a child. Excepting the chaperones, we were all children. Later that year, I graduated elementary school. A friend gave me a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle as a graduation present. I thanked him kindly, and I put it on my bookshelf where I enjoyed its presence for years, until I eventually sold it on eBay for considerably more than it originally cost, which is more than I could have made had I sold snowboarding gear or vintage Billabong apparel, which meant I sold it to an adult in a bidding war, which means tons of adults still have toys on their shelves. These are the honest ones, those who don't conceal their interests in the interest of appearing cool, like a sixth grader at Skate Palace. Between the birthday party and my graduation, I noticed something about my peers. While everyone loved video games, many pretended not to, harboring their affection for Nintendo like a secret crush. At recess, they wouldn't talk to me about Metroid or Mega Man or TMNT. How about Punch Out? "No, I don't play with toys." Castlevania? Their cheeks flush Mario Hat red as they dismiss the question, which means I've unveiled their hidden heart. Most kids are lucky enough to become adults, and at some point along their journey to maturity, many of them grow out of this secrecy, but others don't. And this creates an interesting phenomenon with fantasy media among older audiences. Every year, vast swarms of grown ass fans devour the genre like locusts. But a great many hide their gluttony, afraid of being perceived as the kind of grown-ass adult who still fancies Batman toys. I find this sad, but that's an obvious sorrow, feeling bad for old people whose enduring desperation for coolness precludes self-acceptance. A less obvious wave of my sorrow douses the public fans who pretend to be outcasts, subsisting on tiny reservations, defending their borders from invasion of non-lepers. My wife and I cherish those lands, but we occasionally get "who goes there" at the gates. It's never the older guards who aim their halberds at us, though. Those graying denizens embrace us, share their need, and exchange stories about how the realm used to be in the ancient days of our childhoods, back when the fields and forests were greener, the air was cleaner, and the townsfolk were sweeter. It's the young guards who attempt to bar our entry into Fantasy Palace, even though we've lived inside since their parents met and dutifully paid our land tax. So the forcible outsiting by the greenhorns says more about them than it does about us. Afraid that open admission will diminish their station, they defend their coolness by shutting the portcullis on us, which makes me feel sorry for everyone. Right, that's it. So I just think we should be more on, like, I'm going to give a summary. I just finished that journal, but I'm going to summarize it and very unnecessarily summarize it. I think we should all be more honest with ourselves and more honest with that. I don't think we need to be bouncers, right? I don't I think we should be more welcoming to people to like share our feasts and our chambers, as opposed to seeing every passerby as this is like somebody who's going to pilfer the treasure room. I think antagonism of that kind is something we should grow out of, like a Stussy shirt. And it's not just fantasy, right? It's not just fantasy, the genre, the media, where this like I'm wearing an r.e.m shirt, right? And so music is tons of people pretend to be like outcasts. So if you've watched these before, you've seen I probably mean like a Smashing Pumpkins shirt, more r.e.m shirt, something like that. And these bands, like Once Upon a Time, were considered alternative to pop music. And so the disciples of these bands are hardly like fans or like disciples. Maybe we slash they felt like we slash they didn't fit anywhere. Like, oh, outsider. I just don't belong anywhere. That's why I feel such a strong emotional connection to, Billy Corgan. Um, okay, but I mean, did you notice that they sold out the Tacoma Dome in 1 second? So like maybe the outsider army is just like a wee bit bigger, than we like to, or like video games, what I was talking about in the actual journal. I don't think anybody anymore pretends that like scoffs at video games or thinks they're childish or pretends it's not an art form. And like in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up, everyone sort of thought that, but like the only people we all thought others thought that, but the only people who genuinely held that opinion were our parents, maybe, and our grandparents, probably, because they didn't grow up with this, so they didn't understand the art form, the media. But today, anybody who holds that opinion, that position of like video games aren't art or they're childish or something, they're the outcasts. I mean, like the world left them behind a long time ago. So. Whatever someone's guilty pleasure is, they shouldn't elicit guilt. There's like millions of people who share that exact thing, even like the weird ones. And so, in a sense, nothing is weird. And I hope we can all just be uncompromisingly honest with ourselves. And this is what I hope for you is that you find like just utter honesty in who, like your insides very much become your outsides, and we all accept each other for who we and they are. Okay, bye, everyone.